Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 128 of the RRBG podcast. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Cosmic Eye Beer. Follow them on social media at cosmiceye.beer. And if you're in the Lincoln, Nebraska area, swing on by the tap room. On Mondays, if you wear a metal shirt, you get $1 off a full pour. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Thunder King Coffee. Thunder King is a local coffee company based out of Costa Mesa. Right now, they're selling their Thunder King California Christmas Nitro Peppermint Cold Brew, which is fantastic. My personal favorite being the black gold. I'm a traditionalist. I like the black, just black coffee. No sugar, no cream, none of that nonsense for me. I need pure jet fuel. And these guys provide, they have these awesome little bottles. They're 8 ounces of their cold brew concentrate. And you just mix it with a little bit of water in the morning or with some ice, depending on how intense you want to get. They've collaborated with Violent Gentlemen in the past. They're big supporters of the music scene. I always see them at shows bringing cases of coffee to our friends in Russian circles or Cave-In. Check them out. Go to their website, thunderkingbrewing.com, and pick up some coffee today. At checkout, use the promo code RRBG, and you get 20% off of your purchase. In this episode, I talked to the metal legend Johnny Z, John Zazula. He and his wife, Marcia, started the label Megaforce Records, who's responsible for signing bands like Metallica. They've worked with bands like Anthrax and Testament and Merciful Fate, Overkill. I mean, the who's who of metal. We talk a little bit about his story. He has a new book out called Heavy Tales, The Music, the Metal, the Madness, and it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or you can get a signed copy directly from him from his website at www.johnzazula.com. It was a brief conversation, but I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And pick up the book. It's an incredible read. Cheers. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm here with Johnny Z, John Zazula. How are you today?
I'm doing well. And how are you?
I'm good. It's my day off, so I love my days off. And they're very few and far between these days, so I get to enjoy them.
That's cool, man.
So you just recently put out a book, Heavy Tales. The metal, the music, the madness. And basically, if anyone that's listening is not familiar with it, I mean, you were the founder of Megaforce Records, right?
Well, that's right. I would say that. Marsha and I, my wife and I, started the company back in 82, 83.
Okay.
You know why we started the company.
I mean, I read the clip that they sent me, but if you want to share the story for the listeners.
Well, the company was basically started to be the home for an unknown new band called Metallica.
Who's that? Are they famous? I haven't heard of them.
Number one box office, 2019. Yeah, they're doing very, very well. And Megaforce Records, also gave birth to Anthrax. Also, as a management company, I represented Anthrax for 11 years of their life.
Nice.
We put out Merciful Fate, Raven, Manowar, Exciter, Ace Frehley, Testament, Overkill, King's X. So we put out a lot of good records. Warren Haynes in the later years from the Allman Brothers.
Wow. So you know a thing or two about metal, I would say.
I think we qualify, yeah.
That's really wild, man. Because especially back then when you started the company, it wasn't really a thing. It wasn't prevalent. It was the bands like Metallica and Anthrax weren't at the top of the musical stratosphere, you would say, like they are now.
They They weren't even in the stratosphere. Nobody knew who they were or what it was that they were doing.
Yeah.
It was ground zero. Ground zero.
And I mean, what kind of, I guess, what bands were you listening to that inspired you when you heard Metallica that you were like, oh, I want to do something with this? Because at the time it wasn't really, a popular thing, and metal wasn't really dominating the airwaves or anything.
Well, it was in my house.
Oh yeah.
You know, because I was listening to, Black Sabbath. I was listening to Iron Maiden. I was listening to Angel Witch,
Okay.
Motorhead, big time, and Raven from Newcastle, England, were one of my favorites of the lot of them.
Okay. And when you heard Metallica, because compared to like let's say, a Black Sabbath, it was different. It was a little more aggressive, a little faster. What made you think that this could work? And I mean, did you see it kind of going into the heights that it went?
Well, the second we heard the music, we knew it was different. The second we heard the music, we knew it was great. We knew exactly what America needed and never heard it in everything we listened to. I mean, we didn't have that much. We had the Rods, we had Y&T, we had Twisted Sister. We really didn't have that many great bands in the new genre of metal.
Mm-hmm.
And when we heard Metallica, the first thing that hit me was, this is American. And it was a hybrid above everything else. It was like a mutation right out of the new wave of British heavy metal. It was a mutation in a progression.
Yeah. I mean, they were a lot thrashier too. I mean, they kind of, back in the Kill 'Em All days, it was all thrash. They obviously evolved their sound over the years, but back then it was, thrash was kind of coming up, like Anthrax as well as thrashy.
Yeah, we specialized in thrash. I could say that. Testament, Overkill, all thrash. Basically, that was our number one forte. We did dabble in other kinds of metal, but I think we're best known for our success in the thrash market.
Yeah. And so what was it that got you into metal in the first place? I know you said you listened to Black Sabbath and all that, but before that, I mean, we had I think maybe like, Zeppelin kind of played around with a little bit of that prog metal.
Even before, or just at the same time as Zeppelin, you had the Cream. And the Cream were very, very heavy back then, not like the Reunion you saw in the later years. When the Cream first came out, they were heavy motherfuckers. They were really, really, they made your balls vibrate when they played. They were so deep. And I loved them. I loved the Jeff Beck group. I guess all the outgrowth bands from the Yardbirds is what really did it. Led Zeppelin came out of the Yardbirds, and then it was the Who. These were all pretty heavy rock bands at the time. Even you listen to the early Who, it's heavy. And of course, with the coming of Sabbath and then the coming of Priest, basically, I just followed the trends. Now, I started off as a Grateful Dead head, by the way, believe it or not.
Oh, wow, okay.
but with the death of Jerry Garcia, I sort of needed something a little bit more aggressive, and metal pretty much was my answer to foreground music, opposed to what I call background music, which is everything else almost.
Yeah, because with metal, you're up there. There's an intensity to it. If you're at a show, you're moshing, you're moving around. Other music is not as active. Nowadays you got some of these hip hop artists are making people mosh, which I mean, I guess if you guys are having fun, cool. I just don't see it. But I don't see how that music makes you want to mosh. But good for you. So it's definitely, like you said, foreground music. You have to pay attention to it. The guitar players are playing, ridiculous things with their riffs and the licks and everything. So I mean, I've always, ever since I was a kid, that was always very appealing to me as well. Like I grew up in a house where it was all very. I was in a very strict Catholic school, and my parents were listening to like the Bee Gees and Boney M, and like occasionally we'd get a Pink Floyd and a Led Zeppelin here or there, but it was mostly like disco and pop and super Tramp and whatnot. But I still appreciate that stuff. I really do. But I always was drawn into that world of heavy metal, mostly because it was rebellious against everything that I was being raised with, all the Catholic schools and all of that. So for
yeah,
you,
it had that element. Sure.
Yeah, you had the people, like, especially in my school, they were telling me like, don't listen to that, it's Satan's music, and if you play the record backwards, it's Satan talking to you, and
oh my God.
Yeah. Did that ever happen in your household growing up? Like, were your parents also supportive of metal? And
nobody ever told me what to do and what to listen to.
Nice.
Full range of whatever I wanted to do all my life, and my whole life was full of music. So, I had a life of musical freedom.
Did you play in bands?
Yes, I did. I played drums in a band when I was young.
Okay. And it was, I'm assuming, metal style?
Well, it was harder rock.
Okay.
It was you won't even know the bands, but it was like a Vanilla Fudge, Jimi Hendrix, Cream cover band.
Okay.
All those real hard-hitting 60 bands, and the end of the 60s.
Nice.
Actually, not really the 60s, the end of the 60s.
Okay, so like early 69, 70, around there.
Yeah, 68.
Okay.
I played in bands when I was very young.
Cool. And I assume you would go to, like, how did you find Metallica? Was it like a tape, or did you actually go to a show and see them and say, holy crap, like that's...
It's all in the book. The reality of it is somebody came to me at my shop with a cassette.
Okay.
They had just to the West Coast, and they had heard a band called Metallica, and they wanted me to hear it. And quite a unique story, because I didn't want to play it at first, blah, 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 blah. And then, it's a whole story of how the cassette evolved into the signing of the band.
Okay. You recommend people read the book so they can get that story in its entirety, because it's...
A lot of stories, actually, in the book. It's a very cool book. Not that I wrote it, but it's a very cool book, man. People are telling me it's really cool, man. It's a fast read. It's very compelling, and it's got a lot of great metal stories in it.
Yeah, no, and I saw the tagline of nothing to it but to do it. Like that tagline of yours is perfect. I mean, I try and preach that as much as I can. Not those exact words, but it's the same idea of just, you hear people like, oh, I wish I was in a band, or I wish I could do that. It's like, yeah, go do it. It's not going to just happen.
Well, the book is a great story of how fortitude and belief can really overcome all odds.
Mm-hmm.
We really didn't start with any money, which you're going to find out if you read the book. We started off with less than zero. And from that, built Megaforce Records up into the kingdom it was. It's a great little story.
Yeah, no, I mean, I recommend anyone that's even remotely interested in any of the bands that you mentioned, or metal music as a whole, or just even being an entrepreneur and starting your own business, like, definitely pick up the book and check that out. It's fascinating. I mean, I also, I'm kind of following that path without really knowing it. Like, I came from nothing. I love music, and I was in a band for a while, but it never really took off to that extent. We never got signed or anything. It was mostly independent. And
right.
now I have this like love and passion for the music, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I wanted to help bands kind of grow. That's why I started the podcast to help them promote stuff or whatever. I go to shows, I always bring friends to shows. Now, for you, did you go to a lot of shows? Was it kind of crazy in that whole rock star lifestyle of partying and drinking and all of that?
Well, I was never much of a drinker.
Okay.
Thank God for that. But it was a lot of participation, a lot of backstage, a lot of traveling. I tried to stay back as much as I can, but you have to go out into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no hiding. There's no hiding from it. You got to go out into the storms. And you go out there, and it was a life of that. It was a life of that, and raising a family while doing it. It was quite a scene.
Yeah, it's got to be tough trying to raise a family through all that. Like you said, you're on the road, and it's you're up all night. You're at the shows helping, go on to the next city. If you're on tour with a band, especially, is just rough, especially with a family.
It's murder.
Yeah.
We try to be there for every special school appearance and teacher meeting and everything like that. We try to make it our business to be there. And I think that's what's very important, that you're always there for them, or don't bother having them,
Yeah. That's why. I mean, I'm 38 now, and I haven't had children yet because of that. Because I know that I'm still doing stuff. I'm still traveling. I'm still going to shows at least once a week, and I don't even have the time to dedicate to a dog, let alone a human being.
I could dig it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big obligation, man. It is, Ed. Big obligation.
Yep. Are there any bands these days, like newer bands? Are you still looking for new bands, or is it something that like a lot of?
No, I have retired from the business as of last year.
Okay.
In June, the last band I worked with was a band called The Absence, which is a fantastic band. When you talk about guitar players, fantastic one in that band. And the drummer plays in Venom Inc. The bass player, Michael DeLeon, is in Soulfly.
Okay.
Good band, The Absence. So anyway, and there's a band out of France I like very much called Arcania. Really fantastic band that really blows my mind. And of course, in modern day, I love Arch Enemy.
Okay.
I think they're a great band. But there's a lot out there. I'm not that crazy about all the death metal stuff that's out there. It doesn't do it for me anymore.
Okay. What about some of the newer like pop hip hop metal things that are happening that's kind of taking over right now?
Like what?
Like there's this artist called Ghost Main or something that he's a rapper, a young rapper guy, and they incorporate like guitars and like metal drums and stuff like that every once in a while.
I haven't heard it.
I
haven't heard it.
I don't like it very much, but I'm also not I'm not in that place of my life. Like when I was younger, a metalhead, I was kind of elitist. It happens. It's kind of part of the culture. Like when you listen to that band, it's not real metal, whatever. You get into that frame of mind. I'm not like that anymore. Like I don't like it. I don't like this Ghost Main person, but I'm not going to tell someone not to listen to it. If they're into it, good for you, man.
I never was a big rap guy. I mean, I did listen to DMX. I thought it was really cool. I liked Public Enemy.
Okay.
I love the fact that we put Anthrax together with Public Enemy, and I thought Bring the Noise was a very cool rap song.
Mm-hmm.
But I really haven't been following too much where rap is going or how heavy it could be. I mean, Rage Against the Machine was really cool. I don't know if it's like that at all. But if it's not, and it's more old school hip hop, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a new thing. It's there's like a form of hip hop that's called they call trap music, which is like just really big, heavy bass dropping beats or whatever, and the rapping itself, the tone of voice that they use is kind of weird. I'm not a fan of it, but then they incorporate guitars and they incorporate this like dark element. Like a lot of them are wearing black clothing with black nail polish and like spiked collars and stuff like that, and it's rap music.
I'm gonna have to get into it just to hear what it is, and then if I don't like it, leave it alone.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I see the culture changing because I was there for that little like that rise of rap rock metal like bands like POD and Korn kind of
Right.
gets thrown in there, but they don't really rap all that much. And it's just interesting to see kind of like it's coming back around this like rap rock movement. You look at Body Count with Ice-T, they're putting out kind of a rap rock album this year.
Always did.
Yeah. Actually, I think it comes out 2020, so next year. But yeah, they're putting out a new record, and it's heavy, but with rap, with Ice-T rapping over it.
Yeah, man. That's what they do. That's Body Count.
Yep.
You know, I dig Ice-T. I don't know what they're up to with their music, but I know he's a cool dude. And my friend is a roadie for them, so I'm very happy when I see they're on the road and doing well.
Yeah. I saw them last year here in California during NAMM. They did a special like NAMM after party thing, and they were you had to sign up to get free tickets, and I ran over there to get the tickets, and it was a fun night. They're still killing it, packing out houses, and everybody's into it.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is that something? Do you go to NAMM at all? Is that something that interested you?
I went last year because we were inducted into the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame, or whatever that is called.
Okay.
And we were there. I stayed for a little bit, and then we headed out. I got to keep on the move. I can't sit still in any one place.
Yeah, I like NAMM because it's kind of like a reunion. Everybody flies in for it, and we get to hang out. And it's not often you get to do that with the bands and friends, but it does get to be overwhelming, man. It's like a giant guitar center. Everybody's playing drums.
Right.
And
I understand. I've been to many events similar to NAMM in my life. You have to understand also, I'm beyond all that at this point in my head.
yeah.
I stay away from the crowds. I don't look for them. Well, I'm into solitude these days, Eddie.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You spent many years doing the other side of it, just being at shows and hanging out with people. So I can definitely understand it. As I'm getting older, I'm starting to feel that too, where, there's a show every day, and I'm like, I'm going to stay home today because I'm tired.
No, I actually went to a show the other night.
Oh, what'd you go see?
I wasn't metal.
Oh, okay.
It was very psychedelic. The Disco Biscuits.
Oh, I know them. Yeah. I've heard that name.
Yeah, I went to see them. They're really great. And I had a good time.
Is that something like how many shows do you think you go to now these days? Like, is it just once a month, once a year? Like, what are you looking at?
I don't know. Whenever something good pops up that I want to go to.
All right.
Not a big show goer either. But I do. I got to say, at least once every 2 months, I see something.
Okay, and I know you said you're not looking at bands to, you're retired from the business, but do you go out of your way to listen to new music at home? Like, are you looking for new stuff?
Yeah. People sending me demos and stuff all the time just to get my opinion.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that recently that you liked?
Well, I told you the band that wins all prizes is Arcania.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you mentioned them. You also mentioned Arch Enemy. I saw recently with Amon Amarth here at the Palladium. That was a good one.
Oh, yeah. Bill, huh?
Yeah. They put on a great show. It was them at the Gates and Amon Amarth.
Yeah, that's a great show.
Yeah, Arch Enemy had a change though, because I remember they didn't have in the very beginning. They didn't have a female singing.
Well, they had an earlier singer, female.
Did they? Okay.
Yes, this is their second female singer. The first female singer manages the band now, I believe.
Ah, okay, okay. That makes sense.
That's the they all did do Death Throat, you know.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot. There's a lot of female like death metal vocalists coming out lately that I've noticed between bands like Oathbreaker and the Spirit Box is another one that ladies are starting to do more of the low growl screaming, which used to be kind of a boys' club.
Well, you know what? They add the element of actual singing now.
Mm-hmm.
You can get some real good gothic melody out of these women.
Yeah.
Opera goes great with death metal.
Yeah.
So, and then you listen to a band like Nightwish, excuse me, out of Scandinavia, who isn't death metal, but is another big arena coliseum kind of metal band, which I like, I don't know if you ever listened to that.
No, yeah, I've heard Nightwish for sure.
I'm all over the place with music, so, that's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I appreciate all kinds of different genres. Like I like it when bands experiment because you hear, metalheads tend to get kind of, like I said earlier, elitist, and they're like, oh, this band should only do thrash or should only be doing blast beats. Like there shouldn't be moving or breaking the mold. Or it's like, no, man, I think you need to grow and evolve and try new things, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And not be cliche.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think about bands that are doing they're new bands that are coming out, but they're taking on kind of like the old school, the way they wear, their outfits and the music itself. Like a prime example would be Ghost, where they sound like Merciful Fate.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't compare Ghost to Merciful Fate musically at all.
Well, the first Ghost album, I would say. They kind of started going, like Ghost started going more into like ABBA as the albums progressed, but I think like the first record reminded me of Merciful Fate, like some of the riffs and stuff like that.
Well, I have really no opinion. I find myself still listening to old school because that's where I'm implanted now. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going into the phase where I'm going to become a relic and just know very well where I've been, but maybe won't know where it's all going because I can't keep up with going to the concerts anymore and the festivals to see all these bands and I don't go to the clubs to see some of them coming up. So I miss it all, and you got to be in it to win it. You know what I mean, Ed?
Yeah.
And it's not me anymore. I'm not that young, but I'm not that old. I'm just a little bit over the hill here at 60. I don't find standing as easy as it used to be.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't go to the shows that I used to love, but I do go see the old friends when they're in town. I'll always go say hello.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Is there any crazy story that might stick out for you, like the craziest situation you were in with one of these bands backstage that's not in your book that you could maybe share?
Well, I've shared this one a few times, but I could share it again. It's a cute story with Anthrax.
Okay.
In the earliest part of the Anthrax career, we played at a club in Brooklyn called L'Amour's. Okay. L'Amour's was the rock capital of Brooklyn and responsible for me and anything that broke in the Northeastern United States. They were the New York show. And why am I telling you this story? So Anthrax get their first headline gig at L'Amour's. Now, L'Amour's is still a very strict club in terms of the way it's run. It may seem like a happy-go-lucky rock and roll club, but it was really tightly run.
Okay.
And Anthrax were contracted for an hour and 15-minute set. But it was the first time they ever played their set live as a headliner. And they did the set in 47 minutes.
You speed it up when you're excited, you know?
They were so excited they just finished it. And then they say, good night. Well, L'Amour up to me and they said, Johnny, they're not going off that stage. I said, what do you mean? They contracted for a hour and 15-minute show. And they better get back up there. So I go out to the band. They're getting ready to put their gear away. I go, you can't put your gear away, man. Believe me, we got to play another half hour or 25. And so what are we going to do? We only have these songs rehearsed. So they went out and they did some of the first set again.
No way.
That's what happened. And that was way, way back in time.
Man, that's wild. Yeah, because, I mean, what else can you do? If you don't know stuff, I mean, you could try and just jam, but it's not going to come out. It's not going to come off well.
Well, the album just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew the songs anyway.
Wow,
but I got to hear them time. You know, it wasn't like you've been hearing them 100 times.
Right.
Of course, the River, Fury, Soldiers of Metal, that stuff. You know, the first album.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my cute story for the day. and with that, I think I'm going to go off into the sunset. What do you feel?
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for taking some time. I do appreciate your time. I know that you're busy. So if somebody wants to pick up the book, Heavy Tales, The Metal, the Music, the Madness, it's for sale right now. It came out October 29th.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or just go to johnzazula.com if you want an autographed copy. I'm finished with them for the Christmas, getting them by Christmas, but I'll get them to you after the holiday, johnzazula.com. And thanks a lot, Ed, for your time, and have lots of luck in life.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Peace.
Cheers.